the people who are on. Nice. What up, Josh? Nice. Jonathan, Megan, familiar faces. What's going on? Good morning. Awesome. Here we go, Rebecca. Good morning. Nice. We got people going. So I'm curious, can you hear? So my next door neighbor has decided to grind their tree stumps right now. So I didn't know if can you hear that? Can you hear it at all? Drop it in the chat. If obviously, if not, that's okay. So they're doing it right now. So if you can't hear that, I think we may be good for JR. What's up? My audio is excellent. Thank you. My wife tells me that. Adam, hello. Awesome. Sweet. So let me close out everything on my desktop to make sure I have y'all's full undivided attention. Sweet. So obviously some familiar faces from last session. So thank you all for coming back. I appreciate that. That means a lot. That means I didn't scare you off the first time. So this session is Richard. Good morning. Good morning, Richard. So this session is going to be pretty interactive for the most part. Obviously, this is, I learned a lot speaking to everyone yesterday in my workshop. And so I've been thinking about how to do this session specifically. And so before we jump into this session, I want to give everyone a background about me for those of you who weren't in my session yesterday. For those of you who were in my session yesterday, go ahead and maybe answer some emails while I give a quick background. So a little bit about me. My name is Taylor Desson. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. It is a pleasure to meet you all. Louisville is one of my favorite cities. My wife has got a dear friend in Louisville. Louisville has my favorite cookie. Please and thank you. Cookies are my absolute favorite chocolate chip cookie. Do not at me on anything else. Please and thank you is where it's at. For those of you who are in Louisville, if you want to send me some, I will give you my address. And then also one of my favorite restaurants in Louisville is Decca. And one of the best dinners I've ever had there. So I was really looking forward to obviously coming back to Louisville, but here we are. We are stuck at home. So a little bit about me. I basically recruit. I'm a recruiter. So if you were expecting a developer, psych, that's not me. And I've been recruiting now for close to 9 years. It'll be 9 years in October. So very excited about that. I'm still alive. I always tell people that the recruiting world is very much like dog years. It exponentially ages you. And so I moved up to Nashville after I graduated college from the University of South Carolina. I'm a big Gamecocks fan. And so I did music like everyone else. I played in the honky tonks until 3 a.m. I did stuff on Studio Row. I did the touring side of things. Played the Bluebird Cafe a few times. That was pretty cool. And I realized after my last tour, my band and I broke down in the middle of South Carolina in the middle of August. And I don't know about you, but if there's one place where you do not want to break down in the summer, it's in South Carolina. And so it was on a Sunday. I was sitting outside of Advanced Auto because nothing is open in the South on Sundays. After driving 13 hours from New York City with no shower and no sleep. And I said, I am done. And so I started to leverage my network, which was a good indication of what I do now. And I found a job through Vaco through a friend of a friend. I started recruiting Fortune 100 clients for the first 2 years at Vaco. So your typical recruiter that will cold call you and have no idea what they are talking about, that was me. I still have no idea what I'm talking about. I just lie better now. And so I did that for 2 years, had a lot of people hang up on me. So that's when I realized I needed to obviously make a change and meet people in person. And so I had a chance to move to Raleigh, North Carolina. I was in the Research Triangle area for a year. That's when I kind of gravitated more towards the development side of things. I just fell in love with working with developers. And I think, developers and engineers alike, y'all do the cool stuff. And then so I basically got really focused there, got really invested in the .NET user group in Raleigh. And that's when I kind of started speaking. I got asked to speak there and at their code conference in Raleigh. And then my mentor called me back to Nashville to take over his spot. So I've been in Nashville now for 6 years. I've been recruiting developers and engineers alike. I can do all the things. I've placed project managers, business analysts, QAs, cloud individuals. So I can do it all, but my focus is on the engineering side of things. And so I ran the numbers the other day. I've met close to 4,000 engineers now at this point. I've made a lot of new friends, as I like to say. So let you know my involvement here in Nashville and kind of why I'm speaking. And so I'm really passionate about people. I'm really passionate about being people's advocate. That's really this session right here is what prompted my speaking kind of, I guess, career. It's not really a career, but just my speaking side of things is really bridging the gap between recruiters and job seekers. I think recruiters are a black hole. And so I want to give individuals the tools to equip you to navigate working with recruiters in the job search. And so that kind of came out of me being VP of the .NET user group in Nashville. That was the second or third largest user group. We have about 55 active members a month. And then we also, I was also pretty involved with the Nashville JavaScript user group. And then I started to meet people and then spoke at conferences and went back when we used to travel. Those were the days. I had spoken about close to 20 code conferences. Last year was Code on the Beach, which was pretty sick, in Jacksonville, Little Rock Tech Fest, which is what I met a lot of people as well. And then obviously Music City Code and a few others. So very excited to be here. Always humbled to speak at a code conference as a non-coder. And again, very thankful for the individuals who are obviously here as well. And so what I'm going to do as well, for those of you who want to reach out to me, I'm going to drop my contact information in the chat real fast. I do a lot on Twitter, so follow me at @tdessen on Twitter. I do a ton of content on there. That's really kind of where I do most of my focus, that and LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, Taylor Dessen. I have a text message community. So I know there's a lot of stuff out there, right? There's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat. There's so many platforms. And what my goal is to obviously get job tips, practical job tips to your inbox. So if you want a part of that, shoot me a text. It is me. It is not some automated number. And so go ahead and shoot me a text right now, and I'll get you added. So, but again, thank you again for attending my session. So this session, again, highly interactive. I've done this session for the last 3 years in a room full of people, and it's a lot of fun because people start talking. So this session is another totally driven Q&A session. There are no slides. Like there was really no slides last session for me. I will not be, opening up, LinkedIn or anything like that. I will show, actually I lied. I will show 1 or 2 slides with some questions to ask recruiters that when we get to it. But aside from that, there'll be no slides. And so this is totally driven by Q&A. And so please, I want the chat to be lit, as the kids say, because again, this session is totally, I'm doing this for everybody, for you to learn something about recruiters, something about the job search, how to navigate working with us. So as I'm talking, please think of questions. Nothing's off the table. I can talk about pay rates. I can talk about commission structure, fee structure, how we get paid. Our deepest, darkest secrets. Nothing is off the table, which is why I want to do this talk. But this is mainly driven through y'all. So that being said, I'm going to take a sip of coffee, start loading up the chat feature real quick on any questions you wanted to ask a recruiter. Well, I will wait another minute. Any questions? If not, then I will go ahead and obviously start talking. Sweet, cool. JR, I appreciate you, man. Coming in the clutch, driving conversation like last time. It means a lot. So the first thing JR said is obviously, how would you craft headline based on where you'd like to go versus based on current job role? How would you craft, JR, kind of give me some more background with that. How would you craft headline based on where you'd like to go versus based on your current job role? Give me some more context on that. I'm not quite following you there. Adam, I'll go to you. How do you disclose bill rate to the dev, like what they make versus what you will make? So here's the deal from that perspective. And so from a bill rate perspective, I always try to give the developers or the job seekers what they want, right? So that's my goal. And so there's always a margin. And typically what I do is I try to give the engineer the most money I feasibly can. Do I disclose the bill rate? No, I don't disclose the bill rate because the bill rate on our end takes a lot into play. So if I tell you I'm going to pay you 50, but our bill rate's 85, you're like, holy crap, that is a huge margin. Give me more money. There's a lot involved on our end between we handle accounting and taxes and payroll and benefits and all that stuff that goes into it. And it would take a very long time or it'll slow down the process if I go over with every single job seeker. Now, what my goal is to give the job seeker an individual of it, to obviously give them what they want, right? So if they're at 100K, I'm going to give them probably 55 to 57 an hour to make up for out-of-pocket benefit cost. I will tell you that if you work with the recruiter, I would definitely ask them if they have benefits, right? Vaco, we have benefits. They're a little bit more expensive for a family. Actually, they're very expensive for a family, but if it's for you and maybe one other person, they're really good. But I would ask the recruiter if they have benefits because typically they do. Again, I don't disclose the bill rate, but I make sure that the individual is satisfied and I walk through the pay rate with every individual to make sure that they are comfortable and they know what they're getting, right? So I factor in PTO, I factor in benefit costs, I factor in bench time, I factor in all of that. And so there's no question when you start the contract, but that's on the contract side, that obviously like there's no question of what you're getting or what you're not getting. So that's what I do there. JR, I didn't know if you wanted to expound a little bit more on kind of what your question was. Any other questions? I mean, listen, let's talk about contract real quick, right? Because Adam brought up bill rate. So most people get bad vibes with contract work, right? Like they really think of contract more as freelance, and it's not the same. Now, most recruiters suck at their job. That's why my title is Recruiters Suck, Use Them. So what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm going to go ahead and pull up right now one of my slides. Because this is going to, and again, if you want this slide and you don't really want to take notes, just email me, taylord@vaco.com. Shoot me an email, taylord@. Oh, wait, JR, sorry. I saw where you updated it. The chat feature in Hopin was not updating. But if you want this template I'm about to pull up, definitely shoot me an email. So going back to JR's question before I move on to kind of the contract versus freelance, what does that look like working with a recruiter? JR, how would you craft LinkedIn and headline Twitter profile about, let's say I want to change lanes from non-dev role to a dev role or just switch lanes? For me, I would just say, so if you're in a non-dev role, let's say you're in a manager role, right? I would say like, manager targeting hands-on role or manager targeting development roles or former developer turned manager targeting hands-on roles, right? I think from a JR, I can tell you went to my session yesterday, right? You're talking about your LinkedIn header, your Twitter profile. I love it. I would say just keep it very simple, right? IT manager focusing on, development, right? Keep it very simple. I think if you are talking to a recruiter, you need to make sure you tell a story, right? I think the job seeking side of things is storytelling. And so, hey, listen, I was a hands-on developer up until 2016. For the last 4 years, I've been a manager. I've still been hands-on about 10 to 15% in C#, but I'm looking to get back into 75 to 100%. But from a social media perspective, you just want to keep it very simple. So I would say manager targeting hands-on developer roles. Michael, how does one politely tell a recruiter that you are unavailable and stop calling your phone and blowing up and writing letters? Have you gotten smoke signals yet or doves? Just kind of because we are pretty persistent. So, I mean, here's the deal, right? First off, make sure you don't have open opportunities marked in your LinkedIn. I went over that yesterday in my workshop. Definitely follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm going to share the nuggets from that workshop over the next few weeks once my video guy gets that stuff edited. But I would say a few things. One, maybe not have your profile on Dice, Career Builder, or Indeed. Like remove all your profiles there. If you're on LinkedIn, I would say in your title, in the title portion of your LinkedIn, which is right under your profile picture, I would say not looking for opportunities. I'd also probably not have anything written out in your LinkedIn under each job, because recruiters like to search on keywords. And it sucks, right? Because you want to obviously have all that information, but recruiters are really, really obnoxious, and you kind of need to take away information so we don't call you. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be bulletproof. I mean, recruiters reach out all the time because we have metrics we have to hit. Literally, my metrics at Vaco, to let y'all know, I have to meet anywhere between 10 to 15 people a week. New people. Not to maintain the 4,000 people that I've already met, which is why I have all these newsletters and text messages and stuff. And so, again, recruiters have to just reach out. So, honestly, I would just not respond back, obviously. But I think I think to answer your question specifically, just take all your profiles, all your resumes off of the job search profiles and whatnot. Hopefully that answers your question. I love blowing up LinkedIn and writing letters. That made me laugh. So let's go. So again, continue to ask questions. I wish Hopin would update, because I'm seeing everybody's chat right now as I'm scrolling down. Michael, I'm glad no one's sent you pigeons yet. So let's go over the difference between contracting with a recruiter versus freelance, because I was already kind of heading out in that direction. So when you're contracting with a recruiter, you are going to be W-2 of that recruiting company, right? So you're not 1099, you don't have to take out your own taxes, and benefits are going to be provided, right? So Adam, here we go. 1099 versus W-2. Any preferences for the recruiter? I see some agencies that don't offer 1099 and some do. Yeah. So, and again, I'm one recruiter. And so, I always want to say I'm only, a drop in the bucket when it comes to my advice and kind of what I see in the market. So, with recruiting companies, you have the option to do 1099 or W-2. I know my company discourages 1099. There's a bunch of paperwork and government stuff, and I'm not an HR enough to know all that. So I know corp to corp is better. And yes, if you are corp to corp, you get a higher rate because of the fact that the VACO doesn't have to bear the burden of accounting costs and stuff. So if you want a little bit more money in your pocket, but obviously deal with the risk of paying all that stuff down the road for the government, 1099 corp to corp, absolutely. And so, but recruiters, right, they should offer benefits. They should. If they don't, I have some pretty good options. If you want to hit me up, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email and say, hey, listen, I'd love to hear your options. I have an insurance broker that does really well for my consultants to find insurances for them. But if you're W-2, the recruiting company should have benefits. And then also too, like a lot of times with contracting work, right? We can kind of break down contract versus contract to hire. Contracting work is, what I would do is I would literally think about these things, right? So I would think about, hey, Mr. Recruiter, are you offering PTO? No, we don't offer PTO. And that's normal, right? Most recruiting companies do not offer PTO because it's contracting. You work for the hours that you work. So what I would do is I would ask the recruiter to work with them to build in some PTO. I work with that. If PTO is important, but you want a contract role, I work with you on that. I would also say, just from an overall, again, freelance versus recruiting or contracting, you typically go full time with the client with contracting. And one of the questions I'm going to pull up here in a second is, hey, listen, Mr. Recruiter, Mrs. Recruiter, how many times have you placed a contractor at this company? Well, we've placed 6 people. Okay, great. Have they gone full time? Yes, all 6 have gone full time. Awesome. So that gives you more confidence. There's literally one company in Nashville that me and my dev team has single-handedly placed their entire dev team, and they do everything contract to hire. The main reason for contract to hire, I get this question a lot, is because companies want to hire fast and they don't like HR. And so they use us from a contract to hire perspective to do one interview, because if the recruiting company does their job correctly, they should be able to vet candidates better. And so all that being said, that is why companies do contract to hire. Also, companies don't want to pay a big fee, right? So if you go full-time direct hire off the get-go, recruiting companies like myself, we negotiate a percentage fee on the front end to get paid. It's usually a percentage of your first year's salary, which is why recruiters should try to leverage more money for you, because the more you get, the more we get. And so again, going back to Adam's question, some agencies that don't offer 1099, I would say for me, we don't technically offer 1099. We prefer you to go corp to corp, which is, I think you just have to go get an EIN number from the government. But again, I'm not versed enough for that. I would say the difference between corp to corp and 1099 and W-2 from a rate perspective is anywhere up to $12 an hour difference. That's kind of where we play. Again, the burden that recruiting companies take on between the pay rate and the bill rate is a lot. And so if you go corp to corp in 1099, that kind of waives that. And so you can get more money in your pocket. But again, you have to obviously make sure you stay on things from a paying the taxes perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my questions. Please keep filling up the chat with any questions, if anything, and let me know if I didn't answer something correctly. I mean, or didn't give you enough intel. I have a tendency of not answering questions the best I can. You can ask my wife that. So let's go over. So these questions. So I'm going to share my screen because I think this is nope. Wrong one. These questions are questions that are incredibly important. And honestly, this is, if you get anything out of this talk, anything like if your house is burning down right now, get these questions and then leave the session, because this is honestly the most important part of the session right here. And so these are questions that if you ask a recruiter, one, they're going to be shocked, and two, they're probably not going to be able to answer all 10 of these. So these 10 questions are the 10 questions that my recruiting and sales team, or my sales team, has to offer or has to answer for companies. And so first off, so I'll walk through these real quick with you all and kind of give you some color. So first off, how long has the position been open? This is important, right? So if a recruiter calls you and they're like, oh, I just got a .NET opportunity. By the way, if you're a .NET developer looking or know any .NET friends looking for fully remote roles, I have a ton of them. Please share my information. So we got a role yesterday. And so if I talk to one of your friends today, I would say this role has been open for 24 hours. Why is that good? Because you're probably going to be one of the first people I talk to. Now, if you call a recruiter and they're like, oh, this has been open for 6 months, then you're probably going to be like, well, great, what's going on with this opportunity? And then you can dig in from that perspective. So the next thing, why is the position open, right? Did someone quit? If so, why did they quit? Is this a new position because of growth, right? That's an important question to ask. 3, if it's contract to hire, does the client have budget approval to bring them on salaried at the end of the contract? This is an important question. And I listen, if you send these 10 questions to, in my opinion, I think you should save these 10 questions as a template in your email, which, by the way, we'll get to. I think you need to have a specific job seeking email to keep things straight, and you need to have an Excel sheet. In my mind, if a recruiter messages you, I would have a template. I would have these 10 questions and say, hey, thank you for getting back to me. Can you please answer these 10 questions for me before we move forward? I've had a few developers do this, and they haven't heard from the recruiters again because those recruiters don't know what they're talking about. Number 4, what is the conversion salary range, right? So right now, ranges are important, right? Right now, the market went from, hey, listen, the developers and the job seekers have all the leverage because the unemployment rate was less than 2%. Now the companies have all the leverage. So you need to be asking for ranges, right? Hey, How long has the position been open? 3 months. How many people do you have in play? I have 3 people in play. Okay, great. Can you tell me their salary ranges? And then try to see if you fit in there. And obviously ask for the salary range that they're looking for. One of my candidates was like, listen, I want the top end. I'm like, okay, I'll give you the top end, but you're going up against 5 other people with better skills than you. Do you want to do that? And that candidate goes, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go lower. So make sure you ask that question. What's the hiring manager's name? This is incredibly important. Most recruiters don't know the hiring manager's name because they don't build relationships with hiring managers. 6, how many people have already interviewed for this position? I kind of touched on that, right? If like 6 people have interviewed for this position, say, hey, we're Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, can you send me that feedback of why the candidates got rejected? 7, is that recruiter a tier 1 vendor? So this is a whole nother kind of side of things. And again, I'm only throwing more information at you than probably you can remember. So any more questions, please text me or email me. But so there are something in the recruiting world that called VMSs and MSPs. VMSs is a vendor management system, is a third-party software tool that companies implement to keep track of all resumes. Typically, it's for bigger companies. And this typically is what gives recruiters bad raps because of the fact that we don't get feedback with VMS clients, right? So I would always ask a recruiter. I guess the better question to ask here is that, is that a recruiter a tier 1 vendor? I would say, is this opportunity a VMS MSP client? I need to edit that in my slides. So I would change that verbiage. Because again, those clients can move fairly slow and very little feedback. So you want to know what you're getting into on the get from that. 8, how many people has this recruiter placed with that team? There have been dev teams in Nashville that I've placed 10 people with at one company, and I will tell you. And so obviously you'll have more confidence with me in that company than anyone else. How many people has the recruiting team placed? Literally, like I said, there's one client in Nashville that we've placed their entire IT team from ground up. How many people has that recruiting team placed? Oh, and then 10, how long has that recruiter been working with the client? We have worked with clients in Nashville for 10, 15 years, right? So we know them very well. And so that's a very important question to ask. I know I just word vomited. Any questions specifically around these 10 questions? And then I'll get to JR's question. All right, no questions from those 10 questions. So what we'll do, and again, I'll just keep this up on the next screen so you guys can write them down. So JR, thank you for all the questions. It means a lot. What's the best way to network with recruiters? If you're not typically looking for a new role, you need to, having the network before you need the network. Ooh, I love that. Having the network you need before you need the network. I love that. That's good. I love that. JR, not currently looking. I mean, here's the deal, right? I would say if you don't want to search for recruiters on your own on LinkedIn, kind of like what I talked about yesterday on my workshop, I would just let recruiters come to you over time and maybe do a call or two with 1 or 2 recruiters that you think have a good cadence over their messages, right? So, if a recruiter messages you and they're not using like the basic templates and stuff, and it seems like they're like human, have like a 10-minute, 15-minute Zoom call with them. And if you vibe with them, then just kind of keep in touch with them. And that's kind of what I do is, I have a bunch of 10, 15-minute Zoom calls. And then if people want to stay in touch with me, great. If not, not a big deal. So that's how I would do. That's what I would do if I were you, is just let the recruiters come to you over time, pick up to 3. If you're not really looking, I'd probably 3 max. And then what I'm going to do is kind of transition to what I want to talk about. So I think there's a few things that job seekers need to do. You absolutely need to do if you're looking for a job. First thing, create a job seeking email. If it's jrjobs@gmail.com, right? I think it's important to be organized during the job search because it can get a little out of hand if you're not careful with recruiters blowing you up. So I'd first off, make a job seeking email. Second off, create an Excel spreadsheet or something to track where you're at in the process, right? So for me, I would have like the job, the salary range, if it's a recruiter or through a referral or for a job or a job posting, like kind of how you found the job, where you're at in the job stage, and almost kind of create like a lean kit Kanban board, right? Like to just kind of keep up with where you're at in the process, right? The job seeking, like we actually my team uses a Kanban board to keep track of people through the job search, right? It's the exact same thing, right? Interviewing all the way to job offer. There's a bunch of steps in between. I would do that for you as well, just to kind of keep up with everything that's going on. The third thing I would do, and this is a little hack that kind of came out of a conversation with one of my developers, totally random. What I would do is I would have your top 3 recruiters on a BCC email. And whenever you see something on the internet, I would BCC those recruiters and say, hey, y'all, or just, hey, right? Because you don't want to let them know they're on a BCC. Hey, I see this job posting for this company. Do you have any connections, right? I put out a video on LinkedIn the other day, and it was about you need to stop applying to job postings. For me, I would always try to leverage human connection to find a job. And so what that looks like for you is if you see a job posting and you have 3 recruiters, I would BCC those 3 recruiters, be like, hey, y'all, I see this job posting. Do you have any connections? Well, actually, JR, I do. I'm actually working on that role right now. I was planning on calling you today. Let's talk about it. Boom. That's it. Right. And so again, I mean, a lot of times recruiters, like for me, like I can't get to you immediately. And so if you reach out to me, that helps a ton. And that obviously allows you the opportunity to get ahead of the job search. So those are kind of my tips and tricks to obviously find a job from that perspective. Any other? Oh, Adam, great question, and keep the questions going. I feel like we got some good stuff right now. So keep the questions rolling. Adam, how has the pandemic affected job postings? For me, everything's remote now, which is kind of crazy. I have probably 25 jobs right now. Also, the job market I think is picking back up. I didn't know if anybody wants to put in the chat right now if they see recruiters kind of hitting them up a little bit more right now. I'm kind of interested to hear y'all's thoughts. I think right now, I think companies are kind of biting the bullet and wanting to be more remote. And so how has the pandemic affected job postings? I think job postings are probably the same. I think jobs in general have gone down. And Adam, maybe that's what you're referring to. I think jobs have gone down a little bit and now they're coming back. At least that's what I'm seeing. I always tell people pre-COVID, we were going 90 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone. Probably from March until June, we were going 50 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone. So still good, just not as fast. And then I would say the last 2 months, March to June. Yes. From June until probably beginning of August. From June to beginning of August, we were going like 40 and a 45. So obviously tick down. Now we're back up to 50 and 45. My suggestion to you, even if a job posting does not say remote on it, please submit your resume because everybody's remote right now. And most companies don't have a plan on when they go back. So if you go in, get the job and crush it, even if they want you to move, I would still maybe take the job if I were you. Go in and crush it. Because let's be honest, no one's going to the office for at least probably the next year. That's probably a whole nother conversation that I don't want to get into right now, or we can. And so again, I would just submit your resume to everything. But again, I would try not to submit your resume. I would try to find people at the companies through LinkedIn or you leverage the recruiters. So Adam, hopefully that answers your question. JR, what are those Kanban steps in the job seeking process? Yeah. So if you want to build out kind of your steps on your Excel profile, what I would do is the steps for me would be speaking with the recruiter, right? Or like first round, speaking with the recruiter, speaking with general HR. Then I would say technical rounds, right? First technical round, second technical round. maybe a third follow-up call, job offer, and then job close. So those are kind of the steps that I see in the job search process, right? So if you want to even back out a little more, so it's like, how did I find this job? Was it through a recruiter, or was it through a job posting, or was it through my internal network? If it's through a recruiter, have you had a conversation with that recruiter yet? Yes. Okay. Have you had your first round call yet with the company? Yes. Okay. Have you had your second technical round with the company? No, not yet. So that's where we're at. Then there may be a third round, and then offer sent out, offer accepted, and then the final thing would be onboarding started. So those are kind of the if you want to build those out in your Excel or whatever, that's kind of where I would start. So a few other things. So I touched on this a little bit. I'm going to pull up just another slide on how to write a LinkedIn, right? I touched on this pretty hardcore on the last section, on my workshop last time. But I'll go ahead and pull it up now. So let's talk about LinkedIn's. So here's how I would write a good LinkedIn, right? And also, by the way, keep the questions rolling. Again, I'm kind of going through the content that I want to get to for you to help you educate you on the job search, but please keep asking questions. We have 24 minutes left, and then we'll be done. So let's look at how to write a good LinkedIn, right? And so I touched on this yesterday. How to write a good LinkedIn. I would, LinkedIn is a mixture of writing like technical keyword buzzwords, kind of hacking the system, if you would say, for recruiters to find you. And then it's also writing your LinkedIn in a way where non-technical people like recruiters, because those for the most part are who's looking at your LinkedIn, can understand what you do so they can call you, right? So this is a buddy of mine in Raleigh, North Carolina. His name's David Green. He did not let me write his LinkedIn. He paid for someone to write his LinkedIn. Don't do that. Just hit me up. That would be awesome. You and I can hang for like 10 minutes and I can help you write your LinkedIn. So here is what I like about his. So first off, his job title, principal software engineer. Honestly, I'd probably critique that and say, I need specific tech, right? So judging based off his resume, it looks like he was like a principal .NET engineer, .NET core engineer. I would put that in there. Principal .NET core engineer and technical program manager. Why that is good is because recruiters search on job titles. And so recruiters typically don't search on software developers because that's really vague. We search on .NET developers or .NET core developers or Angular developers. So keep that in mind. And then I like this right here at Itron. I served as a technical program manager and development lead. So that's good. So, right. So what I would do if I were him, I would get really quantitative on what I say, right? So at Itron, I serve 30% of my time as a technical project manager and 70% of my time as a development lead, right? Us recruiters really try to dig in and ask those questions. So that's a very important thing I would add if I were you, a breakdown of percentage-wise of what you're working on day to day from a tech perspective. So technical program manager highlights, he obviously uses the word Scrum, which is important, DevOps, right? He uses keywords, but then obviously talks about things in a way where I can understand what he does. His principal software developer lead highlights, I love it, architected and developed a greenfield IoT asset tracking system. I know exactly what that is, right? So that's beautiful the way he wrote that. And then what he did after that is he wrote all the technical skills he used to solve it, right? So in my opinion, LinkedIn, under each position in your LinkedIn, you should have 3 bullet points. You should have what you do at a super high level, like you're describing it to your family, because let's face it, we all talk to our family differently than we talk to our coworkers, right? My mom still thinks I fix computers, right? I just find the people to do it, Mom. I don't fix computers. Please stop calling me. So I have that. The second thing I have that I would recommend is, so what do you do at a high level? And then list out projects, some main projects, right? So right here, he did a great architect and developed a greenfield IoT system, led complete redesign and development of meter analytics portal, set up, build, and deployment pipeline with VSTS. Very, very specific projects that he did. And then he proceeded to write all the technologies he used for those projects. That's it. That's all I need, right? So he basically had 4 main projects as a principal software developer: architect and develop the Greenfield IoT, complete redesign, set up, build, and deploy, and train and mentored, right? So those are very important. That's the way to write it. In my opinion, that's the way to write a LinkedIn. Any questions on LinkedIn? And I'm going to answer Adam's question right now. Any questions on how to write an effective LinkedIn profile? Adam, what technology is on demand these days? How's the cloud market? Cloud market's booming. I have a remote AWS contract right now, if anyone's looking. And Azure is blowing up in Nashville. In my opinion, I think if you want to pick a cloud platform, and again, I'm sure the AWS people get mad at me. I think there's some AWS fatigue right now in the market. I think people are going to Azure. But again, that's just Nashville. I'm just one recruiter. That's just what I see. So please do not get mad at me. But a lot of people are moving to Azure right now. There's not a lot of people with Azure. There's a ton of people with AWS. And then Adam, so what was interesting in Nashville, it was kind of a fascinating phenomenon. Pre-COVID, all I filled was data engineers and JavaScript developers. During COVID, none of those jobs, all .NET developers and all automation or software QA, like SNETs, software development and test engineers. I have no idea why that happened. That's just what we see in Nashville. But right now, my team had our meeting. Today. AWS, .NET, Scala, .NET, automation architect, Informatica, Python, .NET, React, and Node. Those are all the available jobs I have right now. So hope that answers your question, Adam. Any other questions about how to write an effective LinkedIn profile? If not, then we will go to how to write an effective resume. All right, so again, email me for this template, taylord@vaco.com. I will send this to you, but let's walk through it real quick. So first off, I don't know what it is, but this template does really well. I've had people make fun of me with the font. I've had people make fun of me with all types of things with this profile. But I will tell you, I have made all of my developers, for the most part, rewrite their resumes in this template. They always get an interview. Always. They don't get the job, but they always get the interview. For whatever reason, resumes love the way this looks, or hiring managers love the way this looks. So let's walk through it. Summary, right? So summary, high-level bullet points, right? I have 10 years of overall software engineering, primarily focused within .NET Core and Angular 2+. I have 3 years of Angular 2+. I have 3 years with Node. I have 6 years of .NET, right? Summary is like, I just need, and bullet pointed out, right? Paragraphs, everyone's eyes glaze over with paragraphs. So please use bullet points. But again, I'm only one person, right? And so there's many different ways to write a resume. I'm just telling you what works for me. So professional experience, right? So we talked about this a little bit in the workshop yesterday. I would say if you've been at a company for multiple years and you've worked your way up, you need to break up your resume in ways where it shows progression within your company, right? And so the way to do that is obviously you want to have your current position held, right? So your current position, right? So let's say you're a principal architect. Under the bolded month and year, you want to put how long you've held that position, if that makes sense, and then outline what you've done there, and then keep this format going under it, but don't bold it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So and then under it, so then you would write 3 or 4 bullet points, and then under it you would say senior developer, and then you would put the dates, and then you would bullet point out projects, and then under that you would say developer 3. And that, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I would write it. But let me know if you have any questions there. Finally, technical skills at the bottom, technical skills at the bottom that's a very important way to hack the buzzwords, the Control F, the ATSs, the VMSs, put all the technologies you've ever touched there. That is a way, that is a kind of a capture, a one-stop capture all so recruiters can find you on Dice and Career Builder and Indeed. I will show you what a good Dice profile looks like after this as well. Also, certificates. Listen, certificates are a dying breed. I get this question a lot. Should I get a certificate? Honestly, the only certificates I see that make sense now in today's market is cloud certs. There's not enough people doing cloud to where certs still matter. I think if you are a senior, if you have no experience in cloud technologies, but you get certifications, that can still get you in the door. But that's not that way with any other tech right now. Real world work experience is the main thing to do. But if you're going to get a cert, please do cloud. Jonathan, is Dice still popular? We'll get to that in a second. Certifications, education. Education's at the bottom. If you're a junior developer and you graduated with your BS degree or some sort of degree, I would obviously put that at the top. I mean, I learned that in college, put your degree at the top. But obviously, again, if you're a senior with a ton of experience, you can put that at the bottom. So any questions on how to write a resume? Megan, how do you recommend separating out tech skills to show competency levels, expert, experience, exposure? Honestly, that may be a good way to put technical skills. So instead of having platform software tools, languages, hardware, technologies, maybe just do expert, so technical skills, expert, list all your expert skills. And then under that, it's solid experience, and then exposure. I think that's a great way to write it too. I think that's honestly even better than technical skills. The way I have it right now, I think that's awesome. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions on how to write an effective resume? Again, the reason why I did the workshop yesterday is to break all this stuff down even more, because we're just touching high level stuff right here. Again, if you want this template, please email me. Actually, I'd love if you text me. My email is getting very overrun right now. Texting is going to be the fastest way to reach out to me. So please text me on that number. Any questions, any more questions on how to write an effective resume and or LinkedIn? And we will get to Jonathan's question. Is Dice still popular? So I will pull up on Dice. So my wife built these slides. I love cats. Big cat guy. So it makes this slide just makes me laugh every single time. All right, so Dice, Jonathan, is not dead. You said, is it still popular? It's still popular. So here is where I don't know if I tweeted this or something. Here's the breakdown of where I'd spend your time if I was a job seeker and or really just in general. I would spend 60, I would say 60% of your time on LinkedIn. I would spend 25% of your time on Indeed and Dice. And then the other 15%, I would just do various like Career Builder or just Twitter, whatever. Dice I go to Dice still almost every week to check. Indeed has made a big push. For the individuals who are watching, please comment in the chat right now for me. Please tell me what your go-to job board is right now. Go-to. So don't tell me all of them you use. If you've used a job board in the last year or two, which one have you gone to? Put it in the chat right now, because I'm actually just curious. LinkedIn works. Yep, LinkedIn, Indeed. Okay, cool. So 2 of y'all. There's 13 on the call, so 11 more people still need to comment. Please comment, because I'm kind of interested. Indeed, Stack Overflow. Jonathan, that's great. That's great. Stack Overflow is great. I need to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I think GitHub's trying to become more social. I think I saw that in TechCrunch or something. I think that's going to be an interesting play as well. I think it makes sense. So let's go over Dice real quick. Some few points with Dice. So y'all keep posting, keep commenting. What is your favorite job board? And honestly, if you want to say why too in the chat, I'm actually really, really curious as well. So Dice, few tips on job boards. 1, recruiter search on any activity within 24 hours. So if you log on like you just need to log on. You don't need to edit anything. Just log on. Recruiters will get the notification, and then you'll populate in their search more every day. Make that a part of your day. Log on, and we will find you better. I think it's incredibly important to have, obviously, if you want to go to this, right, have a good picture. Have a, your title, where you're at. Make sure you fill out this information. This is very important information, because my eyes, what I look for is I honestly just look over, I eyeball it. Like, I don't care about photography. I'm sorry. Like, if you're a developer, like, listen, like, this is, if you attended my session yesterday, this is where you bring in brand, right? Tie in your personal brand. Listen, I don't need that on your Dice profile, right? So please keep it very specific, very technical focused. I think if you want to be very, very effective on these job boards, very short, very simple, not a lot of fluff, very technical, right? I don't care you're in the beta club. I don't care you volunteer at your church. I don't care about any of that on these boards, right? You can put that on LinkedIn. You can put that at the bottom of your resume, but these boards are solely for recruiters to find you faster. And the only way to do that is to consolidate your most important skills. And so again, 90 days, again, so we search based off activity, right? So I usually do 1 day here, not 90. I do 1 day. And then we do miles. So make sure you plug in your exact location or other locations you'd be open to, right? So right now, because everything's remote right now, and maybe you have like 5 cities on your bucket list you want to move to, I'd make sure your Dice profile has all those. I'd make sure I have all those zip codes or cities in there. All right. So all right. I love it. The chat is finally going off. So thank you all for this. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Last time I looked at CMEO was drowned. Jonathan, last time I looked at it, it seemed like this was drowned out by recruiters with the same job descriptions for what I expected. Yeah. So, I mean, again, so that's why I tell people, like, you can't buy into like one place, right? Like, you have to have your stuff all over the place, right? And so, like, yes, typically a certain type of recruiter is going to call you on Dice. I don't use Dice as much because I'm more senior in my career. I do stuff like this, right? I present so I can meet and network, right? But junior recruiters are going to be on Dice more often. So they're probably going to send you most of the reoccurring jobs. But the thing is, though, is you still need to know what's going on. But that is why you are probably getting called a lot more by the same jobs, because most of the junior recruiters stay on the job boards. Most of these senior recruiters stay on LinkedIn. But again, you need a balance, right? You need to know the market and what's going on. Hopefully that answers your question, Jonathan. I know I'm going to wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so. So I want to make sure, I'm kind of moving pretty quick. Richard, how valuable do you think college and or certs are for young people entering the market? So I think college is good, but I think listen, this argument happens a lot. I have this conversation a lot. Listen, I'm going to say this. I don't think education matters anymore in the software space. I think if I were to have 2 resumes and I were to have a college grad with a BS degree in computer science with just project classroom experience, but I would have a junior developer who didn't go to code school, who didn't go to the BS degree, and has 5 projects that he or she has taken on for free and has real world work experience and has a GitHub up and running and can show specific work samples, that person's going to win out. And I hate it. Now, there's arguments, right? Where you learn about so much more about the algorithms and stuff. I don't know everything in and out, right? You learn more about, data structures and algorithms and all that stuff, concepts from college and code school. I agree with that, right? I think there absolutely is a place for that. But I think what I see in my market is if there's 2 profiles and one profile has a bunch of free work that they have taken on with no degree and no code school experience, and they have work samples, that person's going to get the look over a BS degree. Again, not a popular opinion, I understand, but again, that's just what I see. Yeah, Michael, a hot take on education. Yeah, listen, I get it, right? There are people who argue back with me and say I'm wrong. Listen, it's just my 2 cents. It's just what I see. So thank you again for um, obviously making a joke. Also, for the new people who just joined in, thank you for joining. I see the kind of the tick meter going up. Again, if you want to reach me, text me. It's in the chat. Email me for all the content that I've shared so far. Also, I'm going to post one more link as well for those of you to get in touch with me. Kind of a really a one-stop shop of all of my information. But again, as we wrap up, I definitely want to answer a few more questions. Also, please keep the chat rolling. So I haven't had much luck with job boards. I get more calls from recruiters I know. Or maybe LinkedIn. I haven't had much. Yeah. So again, right, job boards aren't like the end all be all. Also, by the way, so if you guys want to click on that Linktree link I just posted in the chat, that's how you find everything I have going on to be a part of my newsletters, my texting community, my podcast, my email, just everything. Check out that Linktree. Would love for you to check that out. So yeah, again, job boards aren't, I mean, listen, job boards, like I said, there's only a reason why I say you should only spend 25 to 30% of your time on job boards. I think you need to have a profile on it. I think the profile needs to be very good. I think your resume needs to be very good. And I think you need to log in once a day, but I think that's it. I think most of your activity needs to be on LinkedIn, as in liking other people's statuses, posting thoughtful content on it. So what else? We're wrapping up here. Please keep the questions going. Might need to explain the cat photo and for the new people. Yes, the cat photo. I'm a big fan of cats. Thank you, JR. For the new people who have joined, I have a cat. Big fan. My wife did these. And also, too, I want to make slides funny, because how many times you go to code conferences and they're white slides with just black font? So there we go. Oh, that's a go-to meeting link. Why in the world did I send a go-to meeting link? Let's try this again. There we go. All right, so that Linktree link actually that go-to meeting link, don't click on that, because that's supposed to be a link to a interview. So don't do that. So yeah, Linktree link, go ahead and post that. Go ahead and click on that so you can find more information with what I'm doing. Any last questions on anything you've always wanted to ask a recruiter, anything that you've always wanted to find out about job boards, LinkedIn, things to ask a recruiter, any questions at all right now? Now is your last chance. I will tell you this, the job search is exhausting. Please be kind on yourself. Really leverage 2 or 3 recruiters to be your agent in the market, right? Jerry Maguire it up. I mean, that's really kind of what I'm really kind of advocating recruiters to be. We have the market intel. We know who's hiring, who's not hiring, where you should go, where you should not go. What developers are good, what developers are bad. Like, really use a recruiter for more than just a job, right? Use a recruiter as an agent, as someone to look over your LinkedIn profile, as looked into your resume. Like, really find a recruiter who's willing to work with you, not just on the job search. And I think you're going to be incredibly successful in finding a job and knowing that you have somebody in your corner. I think that's the biggest thing. The job search process is so scary, it's so overwhelming. And especially right now, everyone's stuck at home. You're like, great, what do I do? I think right now, more than time than ever, you need to take some time to speak with the recruiter, chat with them over Zoom. I put out a LinkedIn post the other day that like 95% of the people who responded to my LinkedIn poll said recruiters are only doing phone calls initially to meet you. Please ask the recruiter to do a Zoom call. Why in the world would you not want to do a video call with somebody who's going to be responsible for the next step in your career? So do a Zoom call, leverage a recruiter. And again, please know I'm always here to help you. So that's the end of my session. Thank you for coming to Recruiter Suck, Use Them. Again, if you need me, shoot me an email, taylord@vaco.com. Shoot me a text, 615-235-5650. It was a pleasure speaking. Thank you for Chad Green. Thank you for all the sponsors. Thank you for everybody who obviously put this virtual conference on. I'm beyond blessed to speak at this. I'm beyond blessed that 15 people decided to show up to my talk because, again, I'm not a developer, and I'm always blessed to be at a code conference as a recruiter. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I'm going to stay on for just another minute or two if there's any more questions. If there's any more questions, obviously post. Adam, I'm glad you had fun. I appreciate that. Michael, thank you for the claps. JR, man, thank you again for hanging again. I really, really appreciate it. Jonathan, Rebecca, thank you again for hanging. I appreciate it. Any more questions? I still see there's quite a few people. Richard, Richard, thank you. Thank you, Richard, for staying on. Are there any more questions? Any more burning questions? If not, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. I'm logging off. I'm going to go grab some lunch. Appreciate y'all.